Yes. All right. So this is Pocha Peña. You just heard from Victor Payan.
Salud.
And Lone Star Crown is sponsored. Zamora Casas brought to you by
Yeah, we need sponsors. Please send us a beer.
The official drink of San Antonio. So we're here with Dreamocracy in America, the podcast. And Davidcito, we met over 25 years ago. We were little babies. And it was amazing. I don't know how you could hold up those brushes were as big as you were when we met. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your practice, and the issues you explore.
Thank you, Pocha, and welcome to Casa Colibri. This is where we're at, and I was fortunate enough to meet Pocha about 30 years ago. And San Antonio was a different time now, time then from now. But before we go any further, I really want to thank Jessica Cerda and the bike group called Road Dogs.
We get the wild dogs
There's
in
some
the
wild
wild.
dogs, there's some zombies.
Zombies.
You got
Yeah.
people over here somewhere.
Right here.
Thank you guys.
On and off Fred on a bike.
Yes, for On and Off Fredericksburg Road Studio Tour.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. So San Antonio was a different time back then. There was several organizations that are still grounded in San Antonio that make the cultural makeup of the city, the corazon of this place called Yanaguana. Yanaguana was the name of the land that the Payaya Indians had 10,000 years ago. We were living here. The city celebrated 300 years of colonization, 2018. It was a tricentennial, but we know that indigenous people were living in this area, the place of clear waters, for 10,000 years. There's archaeological evidence, and I wanted to just make that clear so that we know that we're talking truthfully about a total history, not just a part of history that's told by the oppressors.
Yes. So Davidcito, some of our audience out there in podcast land might not be familiar with you. You know, you're a painter. You're a San Antonio native, and you've been involved with many communities here in the city.
Yes, my artist name is Nuclear Meltdown. And Nuclear Meltdown has the courage to talk about things where people will not or cannot see. I've been called a shaman, which I think is it's by Sandra Cisneros, but I think that it's more about being open and honest with yourself and with the community and seeing history as a complete history that's not often told in its entirety. History is told by the oppressor, the winners of the war. You know, it's usually the white dominant, heteronormative Anglo man. And that's the. I want to show the other side of that story. I want to show the gender fluid. I wanted also to mention that throughout our lifetime we go through generational changes. Cada persona tiene que ser el infante, el niño, y luego, you know, you grow. I'm code switching, so I'll rephrase that. Throughout history, we have to be children, we have to be adolescents, and then we become adults. And I've been able to experience that process of realization of identity. So I come from the place of being an American of Mexican origin. I also claim gender fluidity. In our generation, we are coming to the understanding that it's not all black and white. My idea about how do we create a great democracy is I think that it starts with our children. If we don't come from an emotional security of being children and being encouraged to be who we are as young children, we're not going to be happy adults. So that's the perspective I try to bring to the table.
Well, you know, we're exploring this concept of, you know, democracy and these governmental systems that have, you know, really marginalized us, and so a lot of times we've sought our own path, or the path that is not the easy path, because that easy path was not available to us a lot of times. So when did you realize that the system, the government, was not here to serve you?
I come from a place that is primarily Latino based, and I say Latino, but I really mean Chicano, Americans of Mexican origin. I live in a neighborhood that was always Mexicano, Americano, so I never felt the segregation or the prejudice as like going to a white neighborhood. So for me, it was being around familia, and it came in levels of understanding that come with experiencing life. I always felt comfortable in my home, my family, Mexicanos. Sometimes we create situations where by not saying something, but you understand it. Los entendemos. We understand each other. You don't always have to say what you mean, but there's something called intuitive knowledge that we feel, that we know is that we've experienced throughout history. And so that intuitive knowledge is what I base myself on. And we have to trust ourselves. When you feel something in your gut, that's for real.
Trust it.
The trust, you gotta trust it. So for me, the racism wasn't obvious. The segregation was not obvious because I came from a secure family, which back to children, we have to go back to the emotional security, because we have receptors in our brain that, like, for instance, when you feel that chill in the back and your hair stands up, that's our intuitive nature that's telling you, watch out, watch out, something's going on. So that's the same thing on different levels. And so when I realized the system did not work for me, it was when I was old enough to understand it. But I had levels of understanding when I was a young boy. My sisters had a little Barbie, and I knew in my heart that it wasn't right. So I took a Sharpie marker as a young boy, and I colored that hair black. And so I think that intuitive knowledge, that embodied memory of land and people had something to do with that. So when I really found out that the system was not working for me was as an adult, because we find ways to make the system work for us. We find ways to accept it and appreciate ourselves without having to be accepted by white gringo America.
And thank you for that. And then how did you process and express that understanding? Because some people